All right, we'll bring the panelists in for this hour. Director of Membership Development for the Project 21 Black Leadership Network, Donna Jackson. There she is. And former Governor of Wisconsin, Scott Walker. And prosecutor and Newsmax columnist, Wendy Patrick. Thank you all so much, panelists, for being here today. I do appreciate that. Wendy, I'll start with you there. I would ask for your reaction to what you heard there. It was somewhat just opening remarks there that we heard from President Biden for the most part. Obviously, he's going to get into the meat of it. But bottom line, what do you make of the president there, speaking live there at the AFL-CIO and addressing this audience, this specific group of people? Your thoughts there?
Sean, it was hard to watch. We all feel for people that get tongue-tied, they lose their train of thought. I mean, it happens to all of us from time to time. But this is the president of the United States that has just yesterday had his office announce that he will be rerunning in 2024. And I mean, it's one of those things where you obviously have to be a great communicator. Now, in court, we talk about silver-tongued advocates, and we say, they've got to be competent and they've got to be confident because that impacts credibility. Well, in the Situation Room, I would say the same thing is true. And so this was really difficult to figure out what exactly he was trying to convey, who exactly his target audience was, and how this is really going to mobilize Democrats to say this is the best candidate we have for 2024.
And some Democrats are hesitant to do so now, Scott Walker. As we heard from Congresswoman AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, she didn't come out right and say, you know what, in 2024, he's my pick. She said, we're going to wait and see and then come to a conclusion at that time. What does that tell you about maybe confidence levels within the party?
Well, in many ways, with inflation and all the other problems we have, what we face today is a lot like what we faced with Jimmy Carter back in the late 1970s. And remember, when it comes to AOC and others being hesitant to jump on his bandwagon for re-election, it's very much like Ted Kennedy. Remember, then Senator Ted Kennedy took on Jimmy Carter in the primaries. Jimmy Carter ultimately prevailed in the Democrat primary, but lost big time in the 1980 election. And I think that's a precursor. Joe Biden just a moment ago talked about being the most pro-union president ever. He's the most pro-union boss president. He's thrown all sorts of government money at union bosses, but the everyday worker, whether they're in a union or not, knows they're paying more at the pump, and they're finding it hard to find food and pay for food back at home, and that's going to nip him in the butt come this fall with the midterms, and 2 years later, I believe, in the re-elect.
Yeah, Donna Jackson, it wasn't just moments ago we heard GOP leaders address the press saying that the election cycle will be based on 3 I's, according to them. Inflation, which is at 8.6% right now at its highest and continues to rise. Illegal immigration and incompetence, which is another word that was added in there as well. Add that to Karine Jean-Pierre, the press secretary for President Biden, tweeting just 16 hours ago, to be clear, as the president has said repeatedly, he plans to run in 2024. Donna Jackson, your thoughts?
Listen, this president is incompetent, and he still shows that he's delusional. He's sitting there talking about Americans living in a healthy economy when, spoiler alert, there are middle-class families actually in food lines today because they can't afford food and gas. There are upper middle-class families today that are living paycheck to paycheck. And also, he destroyed the fossil fuel industry union jobs in place of green energy jobs that are very anti-union. So how is he pro-union when he's destroying their very jobs?
Yeah, he'll be 81 come 2024. So just to throw that out there again, an 81-year-old individual who might, as his press secretary says, would be running for the highest office in the land. All right, let me pivot slightly, Wendy, and ask you about some news we heard this morning in regards to the president and his planned trip. He's going to go to the Middle East this come mid-July. He plans to visit Israel and Saudi Arabia as well, where he will be meeting with the Crown Prince. Your thoughts on what might come of that trip, the timing of it all, and again, would this be an effort to lower some of these high gas prices we've seen?
You know, I think there are far better ways to lower these prices, and you've heard some of them. I mean, we continue to hear some of them from our Republican friends and even from some of our Democratic friends. Sometimes timing of trips, we can speculate whether they're diversionary tactics, whether he really intends to get some business accomplished that'll help us back here. But you remember, there are even some people of his own party that say, you know, we need you more here working on domestic issues, because everybody who drives and dines is caring more about gas and groceries than the J6 conference or anything else that's going on overseas. So it's probably mixed as far as whether or not people are looking at that as a good thing, although I can't help wondering whether or not it's another test of his stamina, as his press secretary was asked about yesterday.
Yeah, a lot of travel there. Again, a major sticking point there. But many Americans, Governor Walker, just have a common sense question of why are you going all the way overseas to talk to leaders of other nations, one of which you labeled a pariah, to get something that you could get on American soil or offshore. Your thoughts, Governor Walker?
No, I think you're exactly right, but this is more part of the diversion. You saw it this past week with the January 6th committee hearings. Most Americans really wish the folks in Washington, the president, and his allies in the Congress would spend more time dealing with inflation, with gas prices and food prices. I just filled up my Chevy Traverse a couple of days ago at the Quick Trip down the way from us here in Wisconsin, and it exceeded $100. Now, thankfully, we're in a position to be able to afford that. But I know a lot of folks who are filling up, just putting a couple dollars of gas in, a couple gallons in, because they can't afford to fill their tanks up. That's what everyday Americans are worried about. They don't want our leaders flying around the world. They want them in home, back here in the United States, doing something about the gas prices and other problems we face.
Yeah, as you point out, Americans are looking for some solutions. We learned yesterday that the Fed was expected to raise interest rates. They were anticipating about a 0.5 percentage point, but now it might be more 3/4 of a percentage point. So, Donna, you know, that could be a major challenge for Americans right now. Topple that with the high gas prices we're seeing. If you're watching the stock market, we're going to dive into this with Bob Sellers a little later on, but that's also really plummeting here. Is there any sort of economic relief that you see on the near horizon that Democrats are looking out for, considering they control the White House, Congress, the Senate?
No, we have the economy that they wanted. They want the fossil fuel industry to be destroyed. This was exactly their plan. They want to push the Green New Agenda, and this is the path that they see to be able to accomplish that. They're not going to change course, and they've already shown this. They're going to push that agenda, and that's what this tariff is about being able to import solar panels and the minerals that you need to build EV vehicles. There's no course, and there's no relief for the American people.
All right. Unfortunately, got to leave it on that note, but we're going to turn things around. We're going to be optimistic a little later on in this hour. Panelists, if you could, stay with us.